Alright, to continue. Kind of harder to see in here. Thus the centipede struts his stuff in a great spreading puff of powdery stuff ruffled with the gray hairs of its queer body. Medical examiner Ed Shiner, manning the leash, rears back on the thing as it swings its head back and forth, cavorting with musicians rollicking the air with invisible instruments whose sounds miscarry, and bloody floods imperceptible on the slaughtered hyacinth of the amniotic atmosphere, condemned to slow perditions of salt and lymph, blimpy atoms, fat phantasms. A child goes by, tossing a paper airplane ahead of him in the soft placenta of newborn light, coddled in mottle skinned perditions gathering in smattering pools of chewed translucence, masticated by my brain as with octagonal stains of violent color, smothering the shadows in an asphyxiation accomplished in gradations, was still the respiration of emphysemic spaces, dust mote lungs fungused with deadly humors of pollen and speck, feckless, dusk having displayed in one continuous spray of cognition its condition to me. A man with a gland stuffed throat snatches the paper airplane out of the air to the sound of the child's buffoonish cries and ties it to the hook fixed to the centipede's snout as another man runs up just then shouting instructions, his mouth moving with no sounds coming out. There is a commotion without motion as the men commiserate in a huddle, meddling with some device resembling a cigarette lighter in the shape of a yo-yo. Throwing down the yo-yo, they create sparks that mark the sidewalk, only for the thing to jerk back up again smoothly. The groove in the air it carves marvelous with its tiny silver slivers of flame of strange color, as if this shade were the mother of color in all hues and tones produced from this mama rainbowed with a glowing darkness as alive as a laughing child, the trauma of dusk sending bloody floods into my eyes of frightful surmise, undressing the dusk as if it were gowned with a material of ethereal sterility, hugging close the form of daylight's enormous death spread over the surface of the invalid earth, birthing children condemned to infinite pillage of the western sky, prying out of it its essential nutriment, the milk squeezed from the red ducts of its crying eyes, swollen and broken with myopias of tender affliction, so many minioned maledictions discovering ancient crucifixions, elapsing over mapless panoramas enamoring in space, in expanse, trancing one into a slumber of lucid vision, the mission being to steer one's being into that seething sea incarnadine on the horizon, bleeding out its last creatureliness into a night that will soak it up like a rag, the sagging day hanging its head sadly, madly in love with its meritorious denouement, fawn carrying night's zygote frying in a womb of octoroon moribund. A spark just evoked onto the flesh of the schizoid air, flaring with old flamingo enchantment, and then, as if this tiny spark had alighted on the paper airplane fixed to the snout of the centipede, mouthing ancient incantations with closed eyes of glaucoma stoniness, the paper airplane goes up with a flame invisible, and if in risible convulsions of laughter into hereafters beyond a night incumbent, the airplane begins to flutter as if stirred by a zephyr blowing in from exotic regions, the regions of nebulousness out beyond the numberless Neptunes, ruinous and remote. Fluttering thus, as if suddenly enlivened with a form of animation rare as fins on a donkey, the paper airplane seems muscled somehow by some force plowing through it, making it shake as if in a stiff wind, the wings of the thing busy with the action of suicided afterlings, flinging their souls to the poles of an earth in silent uprise, in manful recalcitrance beyond the range of vision. Like a bird experiencing the wildest bodily paroxysms, the paper airplane seems suddenly endowed with a sentience, prescient to a moment, fomenting eggs of larval motionlessness, as with great speed it takes off until the slack in the chain fixing it to the centipede's snout runs out, stalling it in its flight for a moment as the centipede's eyes close, betokening a rumination on the order of the foundations of a universe twirling mirthlessly in reverse hiatus from the pious flight of earth and plunge and soar, roaring soundlessly through a void buoyant on the seething element, yanking against its restraint, the chain fixed to the centipede's face, the paper airplane shuddering and fluttering with a flame invisible, with a crinkling sound metamorphoses into a plane of a distant shape, a biplane with a propeller spinning in listless twirl only for the speed to quicken measurelessly until a torrent of wind is formed around the enormous spin of the propellers which, in a moment, we all will soon forget for one instant from the next, one after that. I fucked up. And with a strange liquid splattering sound, as if the intestines of noise had been uncoiled, the centipede begins to elongate as it is dragged airward by a biplane suddenly gathering a strength titanic in its manic thrust towards unknown vistas of infinite plethora symbiotic in synthesis with the mysteries of existence. I'll go on to part 3. Take it slow.